And action.
I'm Chris Bowman, and you're watching Rugby Wrap Up.
Oh, perfect.
That was terrible.
Coming up next on MLR Weekly, one of Major League Rugby's best players, the mythical Joe Pietersen. Plus, highlights, opinions, and previews from Bryan Ray, Dan Power, and Matt McCarthy. Hey everybody, and welcome back to MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City with a rough voice, to say the least, but thanks for coming by. And we have a huge show for you this week. We've got Joe Pietersen, one of the top 5 stars in Major League Rugby. Plus, we have Dan Power and Bryan Ray back. But before we bring those guys in, let's look briefly back at what happened. North of the border in Toronto, Canada, the Arrows were in jeopardy of their season being mathematically over if they didn't overcome the top of the table New England Free Jacks. No way, Jose, said many of us, but Jose was wrong and the Arrows were on target behind Sam Malcolm's 11 points and 253 meters kicked in a very physical win. Final score, Toronto 33, New England 18. The Arrows stay alive. In the nation's capital, the mercury was rising, and it wasn't because of politics. Instead, it was because of the searing heat and an extremely depleted Old Glory DC were battling the Houston SaberCats in that heat. And in the most unlikely of scenarios, the teams combined for a total of 101 points. The SaberCats survive a great scare and go on to win 59-42. In Dallas, the Jackals had all of Southern California, or at least the Los Angeles part of Southern California, squirming in their seats as Dallas had LA knotted at 12 at halftime. The shaken Giltinis poured it on in the second half and won, going away 56-12 to take sole possession of first place in the Western Conference. In New Orleans, there were some weird scenes inside the gold mine if you're a NOLA fan. The San Diego Legion, in desperate need of a bonus point win, had 5 players with more than 15 tackles, including 21 by Michael Smith. Some thought NOLA might play the spoiler, but pro Joe Pietersen led his team at the critical junctures, and San Diego cruised to a must-win 42-12 and remain in playoff contention. Austin went into Utah to solidify their playoff standing against an up-and-down Utah Warriors squad. But in a shocking and stunning match, Utah pushed Austin up and down the pitch and rocked the Western Conference with a great win. 22-8, costing the Gilgronis first place in the Western Conference. The final match of the weekend had all eyes looking at Hoboken, New Jersey for that showdown in the Eastern Conference between Rugby New York and the visiting Atlanta Rattlers. Right from the start, it was all Rattlers as they uncoiled and struck first and often in a very hot Hoboken. They dominated a depleted New York side, leaving both teams tied for second place with 2 games remaining. Atlanta wins 38-3. Wow, what a round it was. And before we bring in Joe Pietersen, Bryan Ray, and Dan Power, just a quick note. You should check out the Rugby Odds, a special edition of the Rugby Odds on Friday night on the rugbynetwork.com prior to the Houston SaberCats going into Starfire to face the Seawolves in an exciting match. You'll be able to answer questions that we put up on the screen live. Some of you will be able to place bets live. So you got to check that out, a special edition of the Rugby Odds, our other show, on Friday night, just prior to the kickoff of the Houston SaberCats going into Starfire. All right, we'll take a quick break and come back with Joe Pietersen, Bryan Ray, and Dan Power. We are back. My voice isn't back, obviously, but we're back. We were going to do a mystery guest segment, but we're not going to do a mystery guest segment because this week we have a man who is a myth and a legend and mysterious in his own right, and that is the great Joe Pietersen. So we're going to try to pull back that veil of mystery, Joe, if you will, and welcome you to the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me. Obviously, gorgeous Dan and Angry Bryan. A real treat to be on the show.
That's right. Angry Bryan, the angry Canadian, as we discussed off camera. That's an oxymoron. But Joe, you finally caught your breath from playing that game against NOLA.
Yeah, I'll probably still feel the game in my legs and in my body till just about captain's run for the next game. But yeah, it was a pretty good game.
So I'm looking at 134 meters gained or 146 yards, right? You ran 50 meters with the ball before dishing it off for a nice team try. And then in the final minute or after the time had expired, you score an unbelievable try in the corner, which may turn out to be the most significant try in the playoff race.
If we can manage to get to a place where, where we do end up on the same footing as the Sabercats, then the points difference might come in, and I think that comes into play then. So, I always just, I try and play it down as much as I can. The team is involved in everything we do, and every now and again, even a blind chicken gets a worm.
Can I use that?
Yeah, you can take it. I think I stole it anyway, so please use it.
I will. And Bryan, since you're like the statistical guy here, they need help because they've only got one game left. Your last game is against what? The Gilgronis down in Austin?
Yeah.
And then you have a bye the last weekend, correct?
Correct.
Would you rather be playing that last weekend knowing that you have maybe some more control?
I'd play anyone that weekend instead of a bye.
Yeah. It's not like the rest is going to do you guys any good if you're just sitting there in front of a television watching everybody else control your destiny.
Exactly. I don't think rest is really, even on the menu if you have to fight for your destiny. So, like I said, I think we'd rather prefer playing anyone, but that's the luck of the draw, the unlucky part of the draw. But, we can only control what we can control now, and that's the last game.
Very similar situation, actually, to the Arrows, where the ball is kind of out of their court now. They need some help from some other people. I mean, Joe, is there one part of this season that kind of stands out where it maybe got a little away from you guys?
So the two Seattle games for us where we lost by 2 points, I think stuff that let us down in those games. And then again, the Sabercats game as well. So if you take those three games, that's a 6 point swing, not even 7, 8. Yeah, that's potentially 3 wins where we got 3 single points because we were within 7 points.
You had that early scare against Dallas. That was one for the ages, right?
That was when we played Dallas now a couple of weeks ago, I looked at the footage and I saw it 60 minutes into the game, score was 22-20. So it was pretty much alive. I know I pulled out in warm out, Tian Lutz didn't play. So we had 2 guys that didn't play on the day. Dan Pryor got injured first 2 minutes. So within the first 5 minutes, the whole team changed. And then luckily,
Hooli went out.
Hooli also went. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hooli went out in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I was calling that game and nobody was giving me the substitutions. And I'm looking at Freire and I'm like, that's not Joe Pietersen. That is not Joe Pietersen at 15. I'm like, unless he got taller and he's wearing a scrum cap now, that ain't him, man.
I'll change bodies. I wouldn't mind being a bit taller and bigger, but no, it wasn't me.
Dan, can you take out time from your excellent seats at that game to ask Joe a question or two?
Yeah. I was going to say, talk about changing bodies. Mate, at 38, how you keep doing it? Like, a lot of people at the back end of their careers talk about the grind is what gets them. It's not the actual 80 minutes of rugby on the weekend. How are you staying fresh and putting in performances like you did on the weekend and keeping it exciting and fun? Because you seem to be really enjoying your footy this year, in particular with San Diego.
Yeah, I'm just very lazy during the week. No,
You live in San Diego.
I am in San Diego, so the emotional recovery is really good. No, to be very honest with you, I'm really motivated knowing that, and it's been like this for the last, I'd say, 3 seasons, that every season can potentially be your last season, and you really want to end on as high as you can. I really try my best to hit what is good enough in my books in terms of comparing myself to what I've been previously. So that's kind of the thing, and luckily with our coaches and the way we do our work and our trainings during the week, there's ample time to recover. I get in the ocean a lot. And as I said, I know every season, every game is potentially the last one. So I'm going as hard as I can.
Brian's getting angrier and angrier here. He's hearing that you live in San Diego and that you go in the ocean.
Yeah, here we only have oceans of snow to play in, unfortunately. But, you're quite an avid surfer. And I was trying to find think of some comparison that you might draw from surfing and rugby. Is there maybe, the focus required of surfing similar to goal kicking? I mean, you seem to thrive under pressure as a goal kicker. I seem to remember New York coming out of the wrong end.
I know you were going to go there. I knew you were going to go there.
Is there something there? Is there some kind of, connection?
I'm happy that you said I'm an average surfer, because I'll take that. I think the focus and I think the pressure. I'm very happy that you bring up highlights. We can also look at a lot of kicks that I've missed, and easier ones. The pressure, when it's really on the line, you go back to the things that you repetitively do in terms of, okay, this is the process, and if I don't do this, the outcome. So every now and again, maybe in a normal kicking situation, you might nod off, and that's where you miss one. So you try every time you kick, or I try my best. But I think those pressure those are the ones that are special, and those are the ones where you're going like, listen, I need to get this one, focus on this and this. The comparison between surfing, I think if you're Gabriel Medina or Kelly Slater, yes. But I think not for me. No surfing comparison.
So it's more mechanics, more like, even you can liken it to maybe a major league pitcher. Their mechanics go off. They always talk about mechanics. Is that it for you?
The more simple you keep it and as basic as you can, the less can go wrong. So the way I've set up my kicking, the way I take my steps, put my ball down, approach to everything triggers the next thing. So for instance, we were playing against Utah, and someone was screaming something about introducing me to Jesus Christ. And then someone else was going on about, the 40-year-old.
That was Brian.
Whatever. People were, and I was enjoying it so much. Mid setup to the kick, I stopped and I looked at them and I'm like, I need to write this down because it's so flippin' funny. But anyways, usually when I set up for a kick, I do something that triggers the next thing. And then I've got to look up or look down, and then I approach the ball. So there's not much that can go wrong. And it's simple. It's 4 steps back. There's no left, right. I don't change my body. So I look at guys like Percy Montgomery from back in the day, Andrew Mertens. He took 5 steps back, 1 to the left, everything the same every time. Dan Carter was a little bit more, I say difficult in that regard, but I think he's also just naturally a freak. So the guys who had simple stances really had a model for someone like myself to go, okay, if you do something simple and you keep repeating it and you hit the sweet spot and you're not arrogant enough, like hookers. Have you seen hookers? They throw and they've got another job, but they're always standing and they're admiring their throw. That's not what a kicker is supposed to do. So you can never throw. No, you can never kick. And like a golfer, you can't look where the ball should go. So follow through and do your thing. And if you do that repetitively, it becomes your second nature. But as I said, I mean, it's also I really enjoy hearing the chirps from the side, from the other teams, people, and some good ones. You really get people take it personal and they give you something personal.
Well, you shut them up instantly, 99% of the time.
I think it's because I enjoy those moments so much. I really enjoy being made fun of in that regard, because then when you kick it over and you stop to pick up your tee and you look at them, then what do they say? They can't say anything.
When I kicked, I hated silence. It was almost eerie, and the head noise starts if it's quiet. I liked noise, the Happy Gilmore, right? Pump the crowd up, and like you said, you get to hear some of the creative, descriptive words that the home crowd, if you're playing away, can come up with. What do you like? Do you like the noise? Do you mind if people yell and scream and make noise when you're kicking, or do you think there should be silence when you're kicking?
Like yourself, I think it's a bit of both. But if you take the old school, the respect rugby traditional view, then looking at, I think is it Lansdowne Road in Ireland, where you can hear a pin drop. I think there's really something special to that. But then on the flip side of that coin, it's nice to hear people love their team so much that they'll shout something, personal to the poor kicker. So I really don't mind, but I do enjoy, people giving me a chirp.
I just wanted to get you to comment. Ryan Mattias said you have great calves.
That's a really, thank you. I'll take the compliment, but I think it's a lack of quads. It's a lack of quads, maybe.
And are you afraid of Chris Bowman?
I'm more intrigued by everything Chris Bowman. There's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. I think first impressions are sometimes misleading, especially in the Bowman case. But when you peel back the layers, he's extremely entertaining.
Yes.
He's set in his own ways, and that's probably the magic of Chris Bowman. I think he's the most social loner I've ever met, and he's just a good guy all round.
Indeed. Bryan, final question for our esteemed guest.
How are you thinking about next year? Are you going to come back? What's the deal?
Oh, the biggie for last.
Yeah, I'm thinking about next week for the moment. It'll be really nice to have the mathematical equation work out for us, and play a few more games and then make a decision from there. But then if next week this time it's all over and done, then it's a big decision to make. And I'm in year 18 or 19 or something. So either way, I'll be very happy and very lucky and blessed. I don't even want to predict and say, oh no, I'm done and I've got this big plan to retire or whatever. And on the same side, I also don't have any plans.
I'm always amazed when I see you be the last one up from tackling a hooker on a charge or something up the, it's not like you're hiding anywhere.
I try my best. But I weigh 81 kilograms. There's no chance that any team won't target me. So it's part of what I've faced my whole career.
That's 107 pounds, ladies and gentlemen, for everybody at home. 81 kilograms. On that note, I want to thank Mr. Joe Pietersen for gracing us. It was a pleasure and an honor, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, Matt, Bryan. You weren't angry at all. So very, very pleased with that. I appreciate it. I remember the last time we played in against the Arrows in Toronto, we lost, but it was also in your 1 week of summer.
Zing. There you go.
You got it.
There's an arrow through the heart. All right, Joe. Continued success, brother. We look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, that was the Joe Pietersen, one of the top 5 stars in this league. And we're going to take a quick break and come back with previews of the upcoming matches after this. And we are back with Dan Power and Bryan Ray. And guys, a huge weekend coming up in Major League Rugby, and there's only 2 left. And this one starts off with Seattle hosting Houston in a game both teams desperately need, Bryan.
Houston just sweated about 10,000 pounds playing in that game in DC, and they also ran the pitch. I don't know how many times to score all those points. So I think they're going to be a little bit tired for this one. Seattle coming off a bye week. It's a close game to call. I'm going to pick actually Seattle to take this one, but I think it's going to be really close. I think Houston will still take some bonus points out of this, but I'm going to take Seattle at home.
I think as this game gets going, it's Houston's for the taking. They wrap up third place with a win this weekend.
I like the Seawolves at home in front of that crowd, unless Danny Barrett is back. I like those big boys, those big bodies in Seattle, those mobile guys at Starfire Stadium. Then the rejuvenated Rugby ATL off of their thrashing of New York. Welcome in Toronto, who hasn't played on the road in a while, Bryan. And since this is your team, let's go with Dan.
Mathematically, the Arrows are still in it. Mathematically. But boy, oh boy, do they need some, back to the future style events to start happening for them. It's a tough place to go, Silverback Park, but I think if the Arrows can get out early, they're a chance here.
Yeah, I think the thing that Toronto has going for them right now is they got a couple extra days off. They played that Thursday game against the Free Jacks, whereas ATL played on Sunday. And even though it was a thrashing, it was still a very physical match. And again, they played in ridiculous heat. So I think they'll be a little bit tired as well heading into they're still a formidable opponent. Let's not kid ourselves. So, I think if I was, making up odds for this game, I'd probably lean towards ATL as slight favorites, but I'm going to pick my Arrows on the road to get the win. That doesn't mean I'm convinced they're going to make the playoffs because, as Dan said, there's too many variables.
If Kyle Bailey is healthy, if he is in that lineup, I think Toronto can knock off ATL. Who the flock are the Utah Warriors are hosting the Giltinis?
The Warriors could spoil a lot of people's parties here in the next couple of weeks, Matt. LA, no Quade Cooper. Everyone got excited there for about 15 minutes until Bryan said, pump your brakes. Not yet. 2 more years. I'll go LA here with the potential of Matt Giteau coming back, that extra week off.
Waiting for Giteau.
Yeah, waiting. Yeah, good one.
And remember, Paul Lasike only came on in the second half, and when he came on, he started smashing people So I would expect him to start in this game. So that certainly makes it intriguing. But LA also rested a few of their guys. Dave Dennis didn't play again against Dallas. A couple of the guys were rested. So I'm going to back LA on the road, but I think this is going to be a really entertaining game.
Anytime that Utah is within 20 meters of the try line, they should just line up in the I formation and hand it off to Lasike, because he looked like he was just dropped, beamed down from an NFL game and just barreled into the try zone.
He's a weapon, and he's one that even with the best defenders.
I like the Giltinis in this one. The Austin Gilgronis coming off a horrific loss against the San Diego Legion and Joe Pietersen.
San Diego looked pretty sharp, a 30-point win. I mean, I thought they would win against NOLA, but are they losing Hooley? Are they losing Freyre? Are they losing some bodies to injuries? But I'm really tempted to pick San Diego here because they know this is it for them. This is their last game of the season.
San Diego have to win this game with a bonus point to be any chance, and I think they'll do it. I think Austin need to get Mac Mason back, and they need some fresh bodies. I know they kind of did a bit of a rotation on the weekend, and it
cost you first place.
Cost you first place, and you got to remember, LA probably have one of the easier run homes. I'll go the Legion.
I'm going with the Legion, and not just because this program runs on Thursday nights on Your View channel in Southern California. That's not why. In the San Diego region, I'm going with them because Joe Pietersen was on this show today. So I'm going San Diego in this one. You got to feel for Old Glory. One gut-wrenching loss after the next. They are now welcoming in Rugby New York, who got thrashed. What's your take on this one, Brian? Old Glory?
Yeah, well, New York was a bit of a spot of bother in that one. They had a lot of guys sick. So certainly they were.
A lot of guys sick. They were missing 7 guys. 7. And all people are saying, oh, not even watching the game. I'm getting calls and texts. Oh, so all the All Blacks, they wasted that, didn't they? Wasted that money.
Well, yeah, to be fair to that criticism, Milner Scudder touched the ball once in the game, had one kick. Sorry, I don't care how sick the guys are. If you don't give that guy the ball, there's a problem with the game plan. Anyways, I think New York will take this one on the road.
Dan, Will Tucker got a red card, so he's likely out. And you got Nate Brakely coming back from his wedding. Congratulations, Nate and Emily. But you also have Nick Civetta with an HIA assessment. That's a big thing.
It definitely digs deep into the lock stores there, doesn't it? So New York have to bounce back here. And the experience of New York is so expensive.
That's your thing, bro. Zilla.
This show is on in San Diego, but believe me, it is definitely filmed in New York.
That's right. I think this is going to be a tighter match than people anticipate, but I think the New York squad is going to get healthier in the back line, at least. You might see those 3 All Blacks playing at the same time for the first time. And DC is decimated in the back line with injuries this year. So that matchup may help New York overcome the lack or problems with their big men. Dan, what's up with Kane Thompson's NOLA Gold as they go into Quincy to face the Free Jacks?
Could be an interesting game, right? Like NOLA obviously did not look great against San Diego. New England with a win this weekend, they've wrapped up the #1 seed for the entire MLR, which means they potentially would be hosting the championship.
Brian, 5 players for NOLA had more meters on the ground gained than Joe Pietersen, including Aaron Matthews, who had like 250 yards, and they lost by a lot.
Which tells you that stats in rugby are way overrated. The season's basically over for NOLA. How many bodies are they going to have this weekend? New England, by the way, had the same kind of 48-hour flu thing going on that New York had when they were playing Toronto. So that's why Bowden Walker didn't play in that one.
New England with the most international slots on a roster.
That's right. That New England, those Free Jacks.
I think Woodgie gets those guys back on track, and New England smashes NOLA in Quincy. Wicked smart win for the Free Jacks. On that note, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank Mr. Joe Pietersen, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the Rugby Odds, our college rugby wrap-up. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please, please, please sign up for our American Red Cross blood donor team.
Now, the grace to put the kick. That is unbelievable! Unbelievable here at Torero Stadium. Who else but Joe Pietersen, a man of his experience, to step up when it matters and put the ball through the post and take the lead.